Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to impart techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Microsoft's cloud computing platform, Windows Azure. The topic of today's session is Windows Azure, and it is the third session in the cloud computing series going on TechGig. Our guest speaker today is Ms. Sabah Halim, Partner Consultant in Microsoft GTSC Bangalore. Based in Microsoft Global Technical Support Center in Bangalore, Sabah is working as partner technical consultant and spends most of her time providing consultancy, technical demonstration, architectural guidance, and advisory support to Microsoft partners. Currently working on promoting Windows Store apps and Windows Azure. She works on other .NET technologies such as ASP.NET and Entity Framework and WCF data services, and also on development of Windows 8 apps. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Sabah.
Hello everybody. So before I start discussing the agenda of today's session, I just want to say warm welcome to everyone who is here for attending this session on Windows Azure. And as Mohini has already given the introduction, so I'm skipping this thing. Okay, let me tell you like what we are going to discuss in today's session. Okay, it is more about the cloud computing. If you're completely new to cloud, okay, I will give you a brief idea about what is cloud computing. And because I'm representing Microsoft, so I will be definitely talking about Windows Azure platform. And we will be discussing here about various models, okay, what is PaaS, what is SaaS, what is IaaS, and you should know about these public cloud options available or model available. And my primary objective here is to give you detailed information about Windows Azure, and because of the limitation of time, we can see one small application that we will be building using ASP.NET, and we will see how we can publish it or host it in Windows Azure. And during this session, I will also show you what are the tools required and what are the things required that you need to prepare at your end before starting building your own Windows Azure app, and what are the steps required to host it in a cloud. So in today's session, we will be only focusing on these points. Definitely in future sessions, we can think of connecting ASP.NET application with SQL Azure database, or we can also discuss about various storage services. But today, I think we will be only discussing about the core visual Windows Azure platform. Okay, and if time allows, okay, we can also discuss about worker roles, how to use it, but right now I just want to concentrate on Windows Azure. Okay, so before starting the Windows Azure, okay, I want to discuss about the cloud computing, okay, a little bit on cloud computing. So like in case if you're completely new to cloud. So cloud computing, we can say it is like use of computing resources in the form of service over network, or you can say over internet. Okay, now here you might be aware about the computing word. Okay, computing is required in order to execute your application. Okay, or whenever you run your application, you require a processing power. So that we call it as compute, and it actually made up of both hardware and software. So it can be hardware based or it can be software based. So when we talk about cloud computing, it is actually the use of the computing resources, whether it is hardware or software, and which is delivered as a service over the internet. Now, there are many kind of public cloud models available. Okay, so mainly we will be discussing about IaaS or platform as service or infrastructure as service and software as service in this particular session. And when you deal with cloud, okay, you should know about at least these terminologies, okay, because they play actually very important role. So whenever you have a meeting with your client or customer, and whenever you require to talk to your customer, you should know, like when he's talking, what is his requirement. It is about SaaS or PaaS or IaaS. Though definitely in future these the gap between these models will get narrower and narrower, but right now according to the requirement of partners, sometimes it is more feasible for him to go with IaaS and sometimes to go with PaaS model. So apart from these three main public cloud computing models, there are several other public cloud models also available. Like you can heard somewhere like network as service or storage as service or security as service or data as service. Then there is desktop as service, database as service, so API as service. So all these kind of public cloud computing services are coming up with each and every day. Now, cloud computing, it also provides various, or you can say like it exhibits various characteristics. Like one is the agility. Okay, agility, you can say it improves the user's ability to re-provision the technological infrastructure resources. Okay, because you can reuse them again and again, you can reallocate them again and again. Then you have API. So most of the time cloud computing system, it actually uses the REST-based APIs. And what is the main reason why you want to suggest your customer to take his application or migrate his application to cloud? So there may be a requirement of scalability, high availability, or infrastructure cost. These three reasons we can cite here. Okay, like maybe your customer, he doesn't want to invest much in the infrastructure, and he feels like it is a time to go with public cloud because there is a service provider who is managing everything for him. Okay, and cost could be one factor. Then device and location independence also, we can cite one characteristic here, because it actually enables the users to access systems using a web browser regardless of their location or what device they are using. So because it is a web browser, they can access it on any device. And then there are other three important things like scalability, I highlighted just now, and virtualization and elasticity. So I'm coming to this when we will be starting talking about cloud model. And performance is also one thing, okay, because everything is centralized located, so it can be monitored easily. The performance can be monitored, and we can also use a loosely coupled architecture, okay, using web services, which is very much possible. So you can simply create or design your application, just you design any web application, but you also need to keep few things in your mind because you are going to develop a PaaS application. You might be using SDK for that, for writing your software, and after that you can easily host your application in cloud. So maintenance also, we can say, one of the key characteristic of public cloud, or you can say the cloud computing. It is much more easier because you really do not need to install it on each and every user computer, and you can access it from different location because you are going to access the data centers here. So I just want to start our conversation from our very much existing on-premises servers model. Okay, this is our existing model. Now in this particular model, you can say it is very much in place and used by the enterprises, as well as it is a very common model. Now here we need to take the ownership of everything. We need to bring up our own systems. We need to take care of the connectivity between the systems, and we need to think of which software we want to install. We need to take the decision about the operating system. So everything, the ownership from the beginning till the end, it is lying on us. Okay, and that is why, because you're planning everything from the beginning, like which operating system to go with, which software we need to install, how many servers we are requiring in our data center and all. So that provides you the complete control over the data center, over the complete control over the model itself, and it also keeps the full responsibility on you, because in case if any of the server goes down, it is our responsibility to bring it back. Okay, we need to keep the monitoring thing on our own, and we need to check all the servers are all on all the time. Okay, they are active, they are on. It should not be like one server is down. So this complete responsibility is on us. And also we need to bear the upfront capital cost here for the infrastructure. So we need to decide, like in case if I'm hosting my application, how many servers we required, and we also need to bear the upfront capital cost for it. So maybe your customer will bear that cost, or maybe we will bear that cost. So this is about the on-premises model, which is already in existence, most of the time used by the enterprises for whom the infrastructure cost hardly matters. Then we have another model, which is hosted servers model, which is also very much in use these days. Here the consumers, they take the systems on rent, okay, and because maybe they need the systems for some time, or maybe they do not want to bear the cost of upfront servers. Okay, so here they rent the systems from hosted service providers, and these providers, they provide the systems, as well as they take care of the connectivity of the systems. That means they take care of network connectivity between them, and they also take care of the like which particular operating system you have requested for. So they take care of when the next patch um, need to be installed on the servers. Okay, so they take care of that much of thing. And here, if you compare it with on-premises model, you will find definitely you will have less control over the whole model, because at the end the networking part will be handled by your service provider, and which particular server he want to place, it is his choice. Okay, or maybe you are paying according to the server's configuration what you have selected, but you will have less control in comparison to the on-premises model. You will have fewer responsibilities, because the networking part and the load balancing thing all will be handled. Anything related to infrastructure will be managed by the hosted service providers itself. Definitely the capital cost for on your infrastructure will be less, because you're taking the systems on rent. So, but the drawback is that if you compare it with on-premises model, here you need to pay for the systems even if you are not using them for the whole month. Okay, let's say you have taken the system for let's say for testing purpose, and you know that you need the infrastructure, or you need the rented system for 3 months. Okay, but even then you need, or maybe in a month you're using them for 15 days, but as per the model, okay, you need to pay the fixed rent of the systems to the provider. So whether you're using them or not, you need to pay a fixed amount to the service provider every month. Okay, but these days there are a lot of hosted service providers who are also managing these services, and um, also providing the cost on the pay as per you as you go. Okay, so whatever services you are using, based on it they will pay you. But there are very less hosted service providers like this. Now coming our cloud platform. So cloud computing, it is completely based on sharing and multi-tenancy features, okay, because it is based on these two things. And how it is based on these two things? Because of the virtualized and the dynamic nature of the system. So you will find all the servers, they are virtualized, all the servers are dynamic in in the data centers. Okay, so right now I'm not talking about Microsoft data centers, but in any data centers all the servers will be virtualized and dynamic, and that is why the resources can be shared across the pool of users. Okay, and Multi-tenancy is again the same thing, enabling sharing of resources, and it also helps the cost, when it also provides the benefit of cost budget. Okay, so you can manage it. And here one advantage is that the whole infrastructure is abstracted from the uh, users. Okay, they don't aware about the infrastructure, what are the servers they are using, anything about it. Okay, they simply send the request for a VM or a virtual machine, and instantly they can start working on it. The good thing, if you compare it with hosted model, is that you only need to pay for the service you are using. Okay, it is not like a fixed kind of a rent. In case if you have taken the systems uh, and you're only using for 5 or 10 days, you only need to pay for those 5-10 days. You do not need to pay for the entire month. Okay, so maybe you might not very clear with the shared or multi-tenant thing. We will discuss it in more detail later in the session. It is actually a Microsoft Cloud, but before coming to this particular slide, okay, let me brief you up what I'm showing you right now. Uh, Below this stack, you will see infrastructure services at the bottom. Infrastructure services, as I told you, it is completely abstracted from you. So you do not need to worry about the servers and when the VM will go down, what will happen, because it is all being monitored by the Microsoft data centers itself. So you really do not need to worry about infrastructure. It is completely abstracted from the users. Now, here comes a platform as services. Okay, you can see this stack is big broader in comparison to other stacks. So here you will find various services. Okay, there is SQL Azure, there is Windows Azure Platform App Fabric, then there is live services, SharePoint services, dynamic CRM services. Okay, various kind of services running. Okay, now platform as service we actually use in case if you want to develop your own application. Okay, now with platform you can very easily make it out. When I'm using the word platform, that means it provides you something so that you can develop your own application. So it provides you Windows Azure SDK, Software Development Kit, and which contains various APIs, classes, interfaces using which you can develop your Windows Azure application. Just above this platform services, you will find software as services. Now, software as services, it is in a business model. It actually provides access to application softwares and the databases. Okay, and cloud providers, they manage the infrastructure and platforms on which your application is running. And SaaS, we can say it is more like on-demand software. Okay, and it is usually priced on paper use basis. So SaaS actually provides generally price applications using a subscription fee. So this is actually a fundamental. Whenever you want to access anything in cloud, you need to have a subscription, and based on it you will be charged. Now SaaS, it also allows the business to reduce their IT operational cost by outsourcing hardware and software maintenance and support to the cloud provider, because they really do not need to worry about anything related to infrastructure. So as I told you, one key feature or one key reason why you want to migrate to cloud is, apart from scalability and high availability, is also the reduction in operational cost, where I really do not interested in investing much in infrastructure. And it also enables businesses to reallocate IT operations cost away from hardware, software spending, and other things. Okay, we simply want to reduce that cost related thing. And because the applications, they are hosted centrally, updates can be released without the need for users to install new software. Okay, and let me tell you here also, You just need to install the update at one location, and every user can see that update. Okay, you do not need to go to each and every system to install it. The drawback is most of the time people have concern about the security of their data, because they are actually going to keep the data or maybe the secure data in cloud provider server. So there is concern about unauthorized access of that data. Okay, whereas there are so many security options available using which you can secure your data. So SAS, I will explain you more. These are some of the software as services available in Microsoft or provided by Microsoft, like Exchange Online is one, SharePoint Online is another software as services. Office Communications Online is there, Dynamic CRM Online is there, and then top of it is application services. You can call them as applications. You can directly use them. Okay, now this slide will give you the complete idea about what I'm talking about: on-premises solution, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. Okay, now when we talk about on-premises solution, okay, as I told you, this is the existing model. Okay, so here we need to take care of everything from the scratch. Okay, now if you look at this stack here, it starts from network stack. So you need to set up your own servers. Okay, you need to take care of the disk. Okay, which disk you want, what server, what configuration you want for the servers, which operating system you want to install, what kind of application you are developing based on which you will keep or install the framework. That definitely it will provide you runtime. Then data and application, everything you need to manage here. Okay, now come to IES, and let me tell you, like this cloud computing era for Microsoft, okay, it started around in October 2008, okay, around that in 2008 only. And before that, Amazon and Google, they had already entered in cloud computing, and they actually entered with IaaS. Okay, that is the concept of providing the whole infrastructure as services. Now when I'm talking about infrastructure, it consists of everything: the servers, the network connectivity between them, the load balancer, everything. Okay, so they used to provide the infrastructure as services to their consumers. Now here, if you go with this kind of model here, okay, IaaS, now you only need to take care of which operating system you want to install. Okay, you can see the highlighted things here of which operating system you want to install, and framework, runtime, which database you want to use, and application. So rest of the thing, if you can see the three things in this stack, they are being taken care by the service provider itself. So let's take the example of Amazon. If they are going to provide you IaaS, okay, now here they will be taking care of the networking, the servers, the disk, and everything, the connectivity and the virtualization and the availability of the servers around the clock. So that is their part. They will take care of it. But regarding anything, which operating system you want to install, which application you want to keep on the servers, this is completely your decision. Now coming to PaaS, because the session is on PaaS, okay, that is platform as service. Now here you can see rest of the three things, okay, like runtime, framework, operating system, they are being taken care by the service provider here. So if I'm taking the example of Windows Azure platform, which is actually a platform as services, now here, apart from the infrastructure, you also really do not need to worry about the operating system, the framework, the runtime. It will all be provided by the service provider. You only need to look around the application you want to create, and how you want, and which particular storage service you want to use for storing your data. Coming to SaaS, this is actually an application. It is a software. Okay, now if we discuss in a very general way, so you have servers. Okay, so that thing comes under the infrastructure thing, infrastructure as services. Now on servers you really need operating system, right? So that thing comes in PaaS. Okay, so now after installing the operating system, you need to have some software on it. So that thing will be covered in PaaS. Now SaaS means any application you're providing to your users. You can think of a calculator, which is actually running as a service in cloud. You can provide it 2-3 numbers and it will return back to you the data. So this is what about a SaaS application is. And you can also provide them the facility to customize the software solution. Okay, fine. I just wanted to check if everything is fine. Okay. So where were we? I just wanted to take you back to this particular slide. Now you can make it out easily. So infrastructure as services, it is about the infrastructure. Okay. On it, we have platform as services. Okay, so where you can have the SDK so that you can develop your own application. Over it, you have software as service, or you can also say, like, in case if you have built your own application, okay, in Windows Azure, that you can call it as software as services, and over it is normal applications. Okay, so okay, now I'm keeping the discussion open for Windows Azure. So before we start building application, okay, in Windows Azure, I just want to give you a quick overview of Windows Azure. And there is a concept of roles in Windows Azure, okay, which is very important to know. And so let's start with Windows Azure first. So whenever we talk about Microsoft's cloud platform, it automatically takes us to Windows Azure, which is the foundation of Microsoft's cloud platform. Okay, or in one line we can say it is the operating system for the cloud that provides essential building blocks so that you can write a scalable or highly available services. Now what we can say here that Windows Azure platform, it actually provides the development environment as well as hosting environment. Okay, so development environment so that you can easily develop your own cloud-based application, and hosting environment for easy hosting those solutions in cloud. So when you talk about Windows Azure platform, it provides you both. Okay, it provides you development environment as well as hosting environment. And it mainly provides three components or three services. Okay, now here you can see uh, we have these three services. The one is Windows Azure. Okay, please don't get confused with Windows Azure platform and Windows Azure. Windows Azure is the core thing of Windows Azure platform because it also provides you the computing power. Okay, so when I'm right now I'm talking about Windows Azure platform. It comprises of three components. One is Windows Azure, second is SQL Azure, and third is Azure App Fabric. Now when we talk about Windows Azure, it consists of two services, compute service and storage service. Now compute service is required for running your application, to process the request, to provide the computing power to your app. So it actually plays a very important role in Windows Azure. Okay, whereas the storage service is self-explanatory, it all takes care about is storing the data in cloud. So when we talk about Windows Azure, it is a cloud-based operating system, and it provides a virtualized hosting environment and computing resources and storage. The second component is SQL Azure, and SQL Azure, it is more like a cloud-based relational database management system. We cannot compare it completely with SQL Server because it is actually a limited version SQL Server, and it provides both reporting as well as analysis services. Okay, and maybe some of the features are missing at this point in time because, as I told you, it is a limited version of SQL Server, but maybe in future you will get more and more features with each and every release. Third component is Azure App Fabric, which is more about connectivity. Okay, so let's say you have a on-premises application and you want to connect it with cloud application. So it actually provides you a secured way to connect your cloud-based application to on-premises application. Or it also provides another service, which is access control, which is actually a claims-based authentication model. So, and it also provides single sign-on feature. So let's say if you have a Live ID or Hotmail ID, you can use it for authentication and authorization. So both these things work in conjunction with each other, and because whenever you want to connect with any application, whether it is on premises, if you want to work around hybrid model, you really want to connect securely. So for that you also need access control service. So right now I told you about the three components. The one component is Windows Azure. Okay, and these three components, they are of Windows Azure platform. So first component is Windows Azure, which provides two services, compute and storage service. Second is SQL Azure, which is actually a cloud-based relational database model and system. And third is the App Fabric, Azure App Fabric, which actually helps you to connect securely the on-premises application to with cloud application. Now there is one more you can see on this slide, which is Marketplace. Earlier the code name was known as Dallas. Marketplace is all about publishing the data so that it can be accessed by large number of consumers. So let's say government want to publish something about the city plan, or NASA want to publish something about its research. They can definitely publish it in Marketplace, which is open to n number of users. So it is mainly for that purpose. Okay, so okay, now here you can see we have also mentioned on top general purpose programming languages. So it means like Windows Azure platform allows you to choose or select any language and tools based on those languages, okay, to develop applications for Windows Azure. So the supported languages you can see here, they are .NET, Java, Ruby, PHP, Python, and the tools are also the familiar tools, like most of you might already using Visual Studio, and for Java and PHP you can use Eclipse. And the protocols also are REST and SOAP based, so they are also the same kind of protocols that we are using in normal development. And SQL Azure, as I told you, it is having the same relational model and tools as SQL Server. So nothing new in order to nothing new learning in order to build your application for the Windows Azure. Okay, so here this slide is only talking about its worldwide reach, okay, about Windows Azure, how it is growing. So if you look at this footprint of data centers, you can see it is spanning to 3 continents. CDN has 23 locations. So CDN is something like caching purpose we use. Let's say your data center is very far, and if you want to frequently perform some action, you can configure a CDN and you can keep the data near to your location. Service is available in almost 41 countries, and data centers you will find almost in US, Europe, Asia, okay, in most of the continents. And it is commercially available in 41 countries, okay. So I already discussed about this particular platform. So I told you, like, Windows Azure platform consists of three mainly three components or services. The one is Windows Azure. Windows Azure comes with again, we are saying three services here, okay. I have not touched the management part, okay. I have only discussed about the compute and the storage. Then SQL Azure, which is a cloud-based relational database management system. Windows Azure Platform App Fabric, which provides you connectivity with using Service Bus and access control for authentication and authorization. Then this is the marketplace. The code name earlier was Dallas. Okay, and I told you, like, we can use the same existing skills and tools to develop our application for Azure. Okay, I will come to this section. For this actually comes into the picture when you want to host your application. For development, you just need to download the resources. Okay, I will show you from where you can download the resources. Okay, right now I'm connecting to you to my demo system. Okay. You just need to type windowsazure.com. Okay, windowsazure.com. It is the main portal for Windows Azure. When you visit to this particular page, you will find various options. You will find pricing tab on top, which you can use to find out, like, what would be the pricing for your application. Okay, if you want to host it, you need to identify how many servers you are requiring. So all these things you can calculate from here. You can also get the cost estimation. Documentation you can get, downloads. So let's say if you are new and you want to know the place from where you can download the, I don't know what it is. Okay, so in case if you want to estimate the price, you can definitely go to price, and I was talking about the tools. Okay, just wanted to show you the tools and resources. Okay, now here you can see the SDKs for various languages. So if you want to use .NET, you can download the .NET SDK from here. Okay, let me click over here. So right now the SDKs are available for both Visual Studio 2012 as well as 2010. And for Node.js, again, you will get its own SDK. For PHP, there is different, Java is different. So you first need to install the SDK on your system. Okay, now once you install it, you can check it here. Okay, let me scroll down, and you will find Windows Azure authoring tools, Windows Azure emulator, Azure libraries for .NET, Azure tools for Microsoft Visual Studio 2010. just make sure that if you're installing them, then use the October 2012. Okay, this is the latest SDK. Okay, you can use them. So after installing the SDK, you will get all these programs, okay, installed in control panel. So this thing you can check. And let me show you the pricing thing also. Like in case if you are a new user, okay, you do not have a subscription, you can go with the free trial. Okay, now free trial will allow you to use the management portal for free for 3 months, 90 days. And this is the configuration of the server you will get. You will get compute, that means 750 small compute hours per month. Websites, you can create 10 websites, 10 mobile services, you can create one SQL database, you can create 100 hours per month you will get for SQL reporting. So all these things you will get for free for 3 months, okay? And once you cross 3 months, after that it will automatically remove all the hosted services from your um, subscription. Okay, it will simply disable the subscription. It will not charge anything more from you. So it is free of cost. Anytime if you cross the hosted or your computing usage, it automatically take off the services from the cloud. That's all. Okay, I can take you back to my presentation. Okay, so I'm going to show you the complete Windows Azure in one picture. Now Windows Azure, it is a platform, as I told you, for running Windows application and for storing the data in cloud. And it runs on machines that are in Microsoft data centers. So it is not a software that you can install on your system, but rather it is the service that you can use in order to run your applications and to store the data in internet. Or you can say store the data on internet accessible machines that are owned by Microsoft. Now Windows Azure, it provides services to businesses, to consumers, and to both. Now what kind of applications you can develop or build using Windows Azure? The one, as an independent software vendor, you can create application that targets business users. So as I told you, if you are targeting business users, the concept we usually call it as software as services, because you are actually providing them the framework for building their own applications with little bit of customization. Now because you are targeting business users, so the concept of scalability as well as high availability both comes in picture here. The second is as an ISV, we can also create SaaS application to target consumers. Now when I use this word consumers, it means we are talking about a large consumer market. Okay, now when there is a large consumer market that we are going to target, that means high availability and scalability both comes into the picture again. Okay, because you want, maybe some customers might be accessing the application in a particular hour of the day, so you might expect more traffic to your site, right? So that time also you need scalability, and you cannot afford that your application server go down anytime, so that also you want to maintain. So this for targeting consumers, definitely scalability and high availability both comes into the picture. Now for enterprises, again, definitely you can use Windows Azure to build the application for enterprises. Definitely here scalability may not be that requirement here, because you know like what would be the limit and how many employees are working in your organization, but high availability could be one factor, because they might have headquarters or their offices in different locations, and might be their employees work in different time zones, under different time zones. So high availability could be one requirement here. Now Windows Azure has three main components, as I told you. One is compute service, second is storage service, and third is fabric. Now compute service, it runs applications. Storage service simply stores the data. There is third component, okay, which I told you, like I will take up later in the session. It is Windows Azure Fabric, not App Fabric, it is Fabric only. Okay, what it provides? It provides a way to manage and monitor the applications that use the cloud platform, because it is very important. Somebody should be there to monitor and managing your services, because somebody should take up this responsibility that once you deploy your app on cloud, it should be monitored all the time, because we cannot afford that, because the SLA we are providing in Microsoft is 99.9%. So what we are promising to our consumers that your application will have this SLA. So definitely we cannot afford any time any of the VM go down like this. Okay. Now the another important thing that I want to discuss here is I'm talking about compute service right now. Okay. Now Windows Azure Compute Service, it can run many different kinds of applications. Okay. Now the primary goal of this platform is to support applications that have very large number of simultaneous users. Okay. Now I'm not using large number of consumers. I have used a very important terms, a very large number of simultaneous users, and if you have large number of simultaneous users, it can definitely affect the performance of your app or site. So that is why we encourage if you're facing this kind of issue, we can suggest as a consultant to our customer to take their app in cloud. Okay, because there this kind of scenario can be handled or managed easily. Now there are two approaches for this. One is a scale up and second is a scale out. A scale up means you're making your machines bigger and bigger. Okay, let's say you have one server whose configuration is ABC, which can handle 500 simultaneous users request conveniently, easily. Now let's say in another 4-5 months, because of lots of promotion and advertisement, you're expecting more users to visit your site, and this number goes up to 1,000 users simultaneous. Now you want to make your system or server more bigger, stronger, so you can do that. You simply increased its configuration, you take it up to that level, you make it more stronger, and it can handle that request of 1,000 users simultaneously. Now let's say again after 4-5 months you are expecting more users to your site. So like this, there is always a limitation for your server to become more powerful and stronger. So this approach is a scale-up approach, but Microsoft Windows Azure, it is designed to support applications that scale out. Okay, so that means it actually works on the approach of scale out. Now scale out means running multiple copies of the same code base across many commodity servers. Okay, you have one application, you have multiple copies of your application, but when your applications are executing, you call them as instances. Okay, so you have one code base, but when it is running, you call it as instance. Now here in this particular approach, each instance will run inside one VM. Each instance will run inside one VM. If you say for high availability, you need to configure at least 2 to 3 servers, because anytime if one server goes down, there should be one backup server. Okay. Now again, let's say you want to maintain the high availability for your site or app, and for that you need 3 instances for your app. Okay. Now when you say I want 3 instances, that means you are requesting 3 VMs from Microsoft Data Center. So when this request goes to Microsoft Data Center, it actually provides you 3 VMs. Okay, it is not like 3 instances running in a single VM. One instance, one VM, one instance, one VM. Now, So Windows Azure application can have multiple instances and each executing in its own virtual machine. And these VMs, they run 64-bit Windows Server 2008 R2 or whichever is the latest Windows Server edition. So let's say today it is Windows Server 2012, so it would be Windows Server 2012. And they are provided by hypervisor. Okay, which is a hypervisor. It is nothing, it is they are based on Hyper-V. Okay, that means they are modified for use in Microsoft's cloud. Now, in order to run your application, you need the subscription. So that subscription will be based on your Hotmail or Live ID. Once you have that subscription, as I showed you just now, like you can also subscribe for a free trial version for 3 months. So it will provide you the access for management portal for 3 months. You can deploy your application there or host your application there for 3 months. Now, during the deployment, you actually provide a package that you want to deploy in cloud plus a configuration file, which is nothing which is simply a XML based configuration file. So there you actually mentioned you want 3 instances of your application. The moment that configuration file reaches to Microsoft Data Center, it provides you 3 VMs. Now it is very important for you to know that developers, they cannot support or provide their own VM image for Windows Azure to run. There is a good reason, because we do not want this headache to be given to developer. It is to be handled by the Microsoft Data Center itself. So if you're working with PaaS, you can only, because the whole infrastructure is abstracted from you, you cannot provide your own image. Now if you want like your existing application, whichever kind of application it is, if you want to run as it is without any modification on cloud, you can use IaaS for that purpose. Okay, infrastructure as services. So if you do not want any kind of modification, you do not want any investment in code customization, you can go for infrastructure as services. You can take the servers, you can create your own image as wherever you, whichever kind of image you want to create. You can perform customized installation of operating system which is required for your application to run, and then you can run your application there. But in case if you want like I do not want to manage the infrastructure, in that kind of scenario you need to go with PaaS. Definitely you will get much more less cost for it. Now again, one thing I want to highlight here, as I told you, that Windows Azure is based on instances. Okay, you can run multiple instances of your application, and each instance runs is let me show you here. These are the two kind of instances you can create in Windows Azure. One is a web role and the second is worker role. Okay, now web role instance, you can take it as a front end of your application. Okay, it can interact with the users, it can take the data from them, it can take the requests from user, it can directly interact with the users. So when we design a front end of our application, that means we are allowing the users to interact with the we are allowing the application to interact with the users, because there should be some mechanism by which you can get the data from user, because that is the only way you can run your app. Okay, so web role instance, it can accept incoming HTTP or HTTP requests, and to allow this, it runs in a VM that includes IAS 7 or 7.5, whichever is the highest version, because in Microsoft data centers they always use the latest version for everything. So you will notice that VMs, it runs in a it runs IAS. Okay, let me show you here. There must, yeah, this slide. Now there are two VMs. One VM is for web role and second VM is running worker role. So these are the instances, and as I told you, each instance run in its own VM. Now web role instance, you can see here, it runs in a VM that includes IaaS, and developers, they can create web role instances using ASP.NET, WCF, or any other .NET technology that works with IaaS. And if you remember, I just told you that you can also create applications in native code where .NET Framework is not required. That means using PHP or Java. Now there is one more thing you can see on this slide. Windows Azure, it provides built-in hardware load balancing to spread requests across web role instances that are part of the same application. It is important, you have 3 instances running, and maybe one, who will manage, like it can happen like all the requests are passing to only one instance. So who will manage that the requests should be equally distributed across the running instances? So for this we have this built-in hardware load balancing to spread the requests across these web role instances. Now, by running the multiple instances of an application, Windows Azure Windows Azure helps the application to scale. This is one way to, because when we say it based on its scale out, so we want like all the requests should go to the multiple instances. Now, there is one point. To accomplish this, your web role, it must be stateless. Okay, why you cannot store the client information there in an instance? The reason is Windows Azure load balancer doesn't allow creating any affinity with particular web role instance. Okay, so there is no guarantee that the request which is coming from one user, it will be sent to the same instance. So maybe this user 1, if his first request has gone to the instance 1, the second request may go to the instance 2. So there is no use of keeping the data or making it stateful. So it is the web role instances, they must be stateless. If it is your requirement to keep the client information, you can store it in SQL Azure or in any Windows Azure storage service, or you can process it back to client. Coming to worker role instance, okay, let me take you back to this slide so that you can also view some of the content here. Worker role instances, they are not similar to web roles. Okay, they cannot accept requests from outside world. They cannot interact directly with the users. Their VM also don't run IES. Okay, I will take you back to that slide later. But their VM, they don't run IES. And a worker application cannot accept any incoming network connections. So now the question could be then how worker role actually works. It initiates its own request for input. How? Usually you have web role or worker role in your application. So web role will write some data in a queue. There is a concept of a queue, and worker role will read the data from queue. Okay, so this way it actually initiates its own request. So, and it is also a way like web role and worker role communicate with each other. And you can compare your worker role instance with a batch job or a Windows service, a service that runs in a background. Okay, so you just need to, if you want some kind of a service like this which simply used for processing purpose, you can run it in a background. And how it gets the data? It actually fetches the data from queue and then process it. Let me take you back to this slide, and you can see here this is a worker role instance. Okay, and you can see it, okay, it doesn't running the IES, so there is no IES inside this VM. Now developer can use only web role instance, or it can use only worker role instance, or combination of both. And if applications load increases, he can use the Windows Azure portal to request more web role instances or more worker role instances, or both. If the load decreases, he can reduce the number of running instances, or to shut down the application completely, developer can shut down all of the application's web role and worker role instances. Now VMs, you can see here on this slide, that run both web role and worker role instances, they also run a Windows Azure agent. Okay, you can see the agent here in both the VMs. Okay, what is the role of this agent? This agent exposes a relatively simple API that allows an instance to interact with the Windows Azure Fabric. Okay, Windows Azure Fabric, as I told you, it is the third component of Windows Azure. Okay, apart from compute and storage services, the role of Windows Azure Fabric is to manage and monitor the running services, because should be something that will ensure that your service will be available all the time. So this managing and monitoring part will be handled by Windows Azure Fabric, and these agents, they actually provide that information or alert messages or notifications to Windows Azure Fabric about their health, so that your Windows Azure Fabric can monitor them conveniently. Now here I want to discuss about this. Okay, coming back to this, there is one more component. Okay, you can see this is a Fabric controller, and it is a part of your Windows Azure Fabric. Okay, and I want to talk about this Fabric controller because it is actually playing a very important role in the whole architecture. Okay, compute definitely providing you the compute services, and Windows Azure Fabric, as I told you, it is there to manage and monitor your running services. But there is a Fabric controller which is actually playing a very important role. Now, as I told you, all Windows Azure applications and all of the data in Windows Azure storage, it stays in Microsoft data centers. Okay, you know this. Now, within that data center, set of machines, they are dedicated to Windows Azure. Okay, and they are organized into a fabric. Now, when I'm saying word fabric, fabric is nothing. It is a collection of machines. Now, you can see here. Okay, it is a complete Windows Azure, and there is a fabric. Okay, you can see this, and there is a small fabric controller. Okay, now fabric is nothing. You are calling the group of systems in your Microsoft data center as fabric, and these group of systems or these group of machines, they are managed by a software called Fabric Controller. Now this Fabric Controller, it is replicated across group of 5 to 7 machines, and it owns all of the resources in the fabric. Now when I'm saying all of the resources, that means it consists of computers, switches, load balancer, anything. And because it can communicate with Fabric agent on a computer, okay, as I showed you just now, like each instance has an agent running inside it that helps it to communicate with Fabric. Okay, so because it can communicate with Fabric agent on every VM, it is also aware of Windows Azure application in that Fabric, and it also aware of the Windows Azure storage, just like any other application. Now this Fabric controller, it does many useful things. Okay, it monitors all the running applications, it manages operating systems, it takes care of things like patching the version of Windows Server 2008 R2 or Windows Server 2012 that runs in Windows Azure VMs. It decides where new application should run. This is a very intelligent decision. Okay, this is the role of Fabric controller. It decides where new application should run, and it also selects physical servers to optimize hardware utilization. Okay, an intelligent decision. Now Fabric controller depends on your configuration file. As I told you, when we publish our application in cloud, okay, we also provide a configuration file, which is nothing, which is just a XML file. So who read that XML file in Microsoft Data Center? That is Fabric controller. So when you select, I want to host, when you select a region while hosting your application, let's say Southeast Asia, so it might be using one of the Microsoft data center. Your request will go to that Southeast Asia data center, and there must be some Fabric controller which is actually monitoring the group of 5 to 7 machines. It receives your request, it reads the configuration in the configuration file. If you have mentioned 3 instances, it immediately start preparing 3 VMs to run those 3 instances. Okay, So when the Fabric controller receives this new application, it uses the configuration file to determine how many web roles and worker role VMs to be created. Once it creates these VMs, the Fabric controller, it monitors each of them. If an application requires 5 web role and one of them dies, let's say, now in that scenario, Fabric controller will automatically restart a new one. And even if the machine, um, a VM is running on dies, then Fabric controller will start a new machine of the web or worker role in a VM or another machine, and then it also resets the load balancer so that it starts pointing to a new address, new machine. So all these intelligent decisions are being handled and taken care by your Fabric controller. So it is playing a very important role, because most of the time people ask how these things handled automatically. So for this we have this Fabric controller. Okay, now okay, so this is all about the features we have already discussed. Okay, regarding storage services, I can say don't confuse the storage service with your SQL Azure. Storage service is a part of Windows Azure, whereas SQL Azure is another such service, another component equivalent to Windows Azure, right? So storage service, if you want to use this service, it provides you mainly three kinds of storage services. One is table, second is blob, third is queue. So queue, you can only put very small limited amount of data in it, and table and blobs, they are mostly used. Now don't get confused the table storage with SQL Azure tables, because tables in storage Azure storage services, they are not RDBMS based tables. So if you have worked around entity framework, it is actually using that kind of concept. So you need to create your own entity, and then you can store the data into it. Okay, the only difference between blob and tables is that tables are more organized, and it keeps the data in a structured way. It allows you to query onto that data, whereas blob is more like it keeps the data in binary format. So you can use it like a file system. You can get the data, you can dump the data there, but you cannot query onto that data. And table storage service, it also uses querying using link. Okay, and it also supports ADO.NET data services if you have worked around it. Okay, so okay, I'm done with the theory part. I just want to show you like how we can build our application. Okay, because we have a time limit, so I'm going to close this, and I'm taking you to my demo system. We are not going to create a very complicated application. Okay, let me show you the management portal is running here. I have logged in inside it. Okay, let me show you. Like this is the first page where if you want to log into the management portal, you just need to go back to home. Okay, it is little bit slow because I'm accessing it in through MSTSC. Or we can call it directly rather than waiting. Okay, now here you can see this option at top. Okay, extreme top right corner. So this is the portal option. Just click on this and it will take you to the login screen. Okay, and from there you can log into the management portal. Now I'm already inside this portal, and we will see how we can create our application and host it in Windows Azure. So I showed you like all the tools required and SDK, all these things are already available. Okay, And okay, actually I wanted to show you that screen which was showing the complete Azure in one page. Yeah, this page. Okay, so uh, if you can see here on the slide, we have Microsoft data centers. On these data centers, okay, we have a cloud VM virtual machine. Now this virtual machine will have Windows Azure setup on it, runtime API, so that you can create your own custom code. And then you, at your desktop, at your end, you have Windows Azure SDK and Visual Studio tools required for it. And after developing your application, if you want to um, port it or host it in Windows Azure, you need to log into management portal. Okay, and based on the subscription you can uh, log in and then you can host it. And you can see everywhere there is REST based APIs. They are being used by the storage service and your service management service. It is also using the REST API. Okay, now in order to create your own Windows Azure application, you just need to go to File, say New, Project, because we have already installed the SDKs, required SDK for .NET. So you will find Cloud template in under the Install templates. Okay, you just need to select Cloud because I'm going to write the coding using Visual C#. So I have selected it. In case if you're comfortable writing code with VB.NET, you can also select it. So I have selected Cloud. You can give any name to your application. Let's say I want to name it as Windows Azure application demo. Say OK. It will show you this a small dialog box, okay, and it will show you the various kinds of roles you can select. As I told you, you can select web roles as well as worker roles depending upon the architecture of your application. So you will find ASP.NET Web Role is there. Then in case if you want to use MVC, you will find ASP.NET MVC Web Roles and WCF Service Web Roles. In case if you want to create a WCF, then you have Worker Role. In case if you're sure you need a background process in your application, Cashier Worker Role, and Silverlight Business Application. So all these kind of roles are available. But because we are going to create a very simple application, I want to go with ASP.NET Web Role. And you can also rename the web role by clicking on this pencil icon. Just click on it and you can rename it. But right now, because I'm writing a very simple one, I'm not changing the name. Let's say OK. The important thing is to know what we get in Solution Explorer. Okay. Now in Solution Explorer, you will find two kind of projects. The one is Web Role 1 and second is Windows Azure App Demo. Okay. Now one Web Role 1, as I told you, Web Role always depicts the front end of your application. Okay, so web role here we have selected a ASP.NET Web Role. So when you expand this project, you will find all the files and folders are exactly like what you get with ASP.NET project. So it is exactly a ASP.NET project, nothing else. If you know ASP.NET, you can start building a ASP.NET website. The only difference you will find here is one additional file, which is webrole.cs, and this is required for initializing your web role. So when you execute your application, the control will first come to this particular file, and it contains all the callbacks method. Let's say if you want to write something or you want to override method for on start event, you can write that code here. Then there are other callbacks method like run or stop. So you can override those methods according to your requirement also. And this web role, it extends from role entry point. If you put your cursor over here, you can see it saying provides callbacks to initialize, run, and stop instance of the role. Okay, so it is actually required to initialize the role instance and stop the instance, or in case if you want to write anything under the run event. So this is the only file, additional file you will get inside the ASP.NET project. Now coming to the second project we have, this is our actually Windows Azure project. Okay, and this contains nothing, everything related to configuration, and you will find two kind of configuration files. One is the cloud-based. So use cloud-based only if you're putting or hosting your application in cloud, or otherwise the local configuration file. Now local configuration file is here because when we develop a Windows Azure application, you have provision to run it locally or test it locally, and this is recommended also. So after developing, you need to test and debug it and just find it out like it is working perfectly fine in local environment, and once it is running or giving you the output as per your expectation, or if it is giving you the desired result, only then migrate it to cloud. So I'm going to open up this local configuration file, and you will find the name of service name is the same name that you had given to your solution, the web role one, because I had not changed it. Instance count, yeah, here you actually provide the number of instances you want to configure for your app. Configuration setting, it is all about diagnostics information. Okay, when you run your Windows Azure app, it shows the diagnostic information. If you want to store it for later purpose, you can store it in your development storage. Now here when I say development storage, that means it is actually using the SQL Express edition of the local system. And if you open up the definition file, it is containing the information related to binding and the endpoints being used by your web role. Okay, so this is the endpoint 1, and it is using HTTP protocol. 80 is the port number. Now there is a difference between configuration and definition file. The definition file, it is a part of your package. Okay, it is a part of your package, so you cannot make changes to the definition file after hosting your application. Okay, you can make changes to configuration file because it goes with package. So you can make changes to configuration file, but you cannot make changes to definition file. Now you might be thinking that you have to make changes to these file, and these file they are in a XML format. No, you can directly double click on this web role 1 here inside the roles folder, and this will open up this wizard. So first is configuration, and if you want to configure instances for your app, let's say 3, you can mention it here. It also provides you the option to select the VM size. Okay, so the VM size will be double for double of small for medium, double of medium for large, double of large for extra large. So you can select and you can get the configuration information if you click over here, this link, and HTTP endpoint it is using. And here we have actually enabled that I want to store the diagnostics information in development storage. And settings will keep the information about the connection string because you're storing the diagnostics information in your development storage, so you need a connection string for that. That is why there is a connection string. Now if you go back and disable it here, then it will not show you anything here. Okay, the moment you will select it, it will start appearing here. Endpoints, it is the same endpoint for your web role. We are not using any local storage or certificate or network kind of thing. So we have just made one change here, that we just need, which we just increase the instance count, okay, here. So, or let's say just remove the enable diagnostics, save and close it off, and you can open up your configuration file and check. You will find the configuration settings information has been removed from here. Instance count has been increased to 3. Now if I want to go back the same configuration that we had earlier, So we can double click on web role 1. We can change it back to 1. We can enable the diagnostics. We can save it back, close it off, and you will find the configuration file is again, information is again here, and the instance count is 1. Okay, now we will go and quickly design the application. So for that, I'm going to get the code from here because it will help us to save our time. Say copy, and inside the default .aspx I'm going to paste this code, and this is a very simple code I have placed. Okay, click on design and you will find I have okay, added one label to show finding the square of the number. Then there is one text box which will take the number for which you want to find out the square. And when you click on this square button, it will show you the result in label 2. Now, I also want to keep logic here. So for that, we can go back to this app and default.aspx.cs is the code behind file. We can get the code, say copy, and paste it here. Okay. Now we had simply retrieved the data from text box, converted to integer, calculated the result, and again converted back to string for showing it in a label. Now I'm going to execute it. Now at this point in time, just save it, and just remember the name of your app is Windows Azure App Demo, and close it off. I'm going to start Visual Studio 2010 in a administrator mode. Just access this project that we have just created and execute it. Now at this point in time, when I'm executing it, it will execute it in a development fabric. It is running it in a local environment, and you can see here in address bar it is actually pointing to your local system 127.0.1. So I'm testing it in my local system right now. I simply want to see whether it is working correctly, perfectly, or it is ready to be deployed in cloud. So it is working fine. Now my next step is to host it in cloud. So what you will do, you just need to right click on Azure project. Okay, not web role. You need to right click here in Azure project. You have two options. Either you can select package or you can publish it directly here. Okay, when you select publish, definitely first time it will not show you subscription. So you need to click on this link, sign in to download credentials. So you again need to pass your subscription login ID and password, and it will provide you a file. Just download it to your system and import it using this button. Say next. You need to provide a cloud service name. Click on this drop down, click on create new. Okay, it will ask you to provide a unique name by which it can host your application in cloud. Provide that name, select a region. So you can select any of the data centers from these region. The ideal one which is close to your place. So definitely Southeast Asia. And you just need to provide some name, let's say, because I'm not going to use this way, so I provided some junk name. The DNS name is already taken. Okay, it is not unique. Okay, so keep the other information like this, production, release, cloud as it is. If you want to access the desktop remotely, you need to enable this thing. Otherwise, you can simply say next. And this way you can say publish. Just go through the information which you can see here. Just check it out. If it is completely fine, you can say publish, and it will start uploading your thing. So this is the easiest way. Another way is You can right click over here, you can see package and say package. Okay, you can see in the taskbar it is showing publish started and succeeded. You just need to copy this location, Control C. Now here you can see, as I told you, with package it also club your configuration file. The configuration file which will have the information about how many instances you want to configure for your app. Okay, I'm closing it off and we can go back to our portal. You need to click on cloud services. Okay, need to click on cloud services, and here, okay, below the pane you will find new option. Okay, click on new button, compute cloud service, quick create, provide a unique name because by this name it is going to publish your app. So let's say I'm going to name it as Windows Azure my app. Let's say if this name is existing. Yes, it is existing. It is showing green arrow or green tick mark. Select the region or affinity group. Affinity group is like in case if you want to keep the storage service close to your hosted app. Okay, so this way you can create affinity group, and whichever application you want to put, it will be inside the affinity group. Okay, so all the applications will be hosted close to each other. So there is no affinity group right now. Okay, these are already created for testing purpose. So I'm going to select Southeast Asia. It has taken this subscription, create cloud service. Click on this. Okay, there is some problem. Okay, we will do the same step again. Let's say Windows Azure test app 1.2. Okay, select the region. Okay, let me change the subscription. We can try this. Okay, let me remove this one. Okay, maybe there is a space problem. Okay, it was actually a space problem because there is a limit like how many services you can host. Okay, so sometimes it also happens because of that. So it is created here. Okay, just click on it and it will take you to the dashboard, and select whichever environment you want to use. You want to upload it in a staging environment or production environment. I have selected production. Say upload, and here we need to give a name. This name should be unique, or we can provide some Windows Azure, MyWin Azure desktop, local, and here you need to paste. Okay, so just select the file, then configuration file. Okay, and deploy even if one or more role contains a single instance, because there is only one instance, so I'm selecting this option. Click on write. Okay, it will take a few minutes to perform the action. In the meantime, okay, I can check if there are questions. Guys, if you have questions, you can write them here in question answer panel, and I will take the questions directly from here, because after this demo we will conclude this session. Okay, there is one question on merits between dedicated server and VPN server, because I actually don't work on the infra side. I can take your question. If you can post it there, I can answer you. Okay, because I need to check it, this question. I'm not working on infra side. Okay, so my work is mostly toward the PaaS. So if you have questions related to it, I can answer them, but not related to configurations and all. Okay, there is again one question: how to manage user access in cloud computing? This question is not clear to me. It is very abstract. I need more information around it. Like in case if it is related to authorization, like you want to authenticate or authorization, you can use all kind of models. If you're using ASP.NET, you can use forms authentication, or you can use the access control, ADFS, anything, whichever way you want to authenticate. Data center and cloud, there is no difference. Data center we refer to as place where you from where you are actually accessing the infrastructure. Data center can be yours also. When you're hosting your own application and you're not going to any service provider to access it, that means you're using your own data center to host your app. So data center means every organization has its own data center where they actually deploy their applications. So when we say in cloud, it is actually managed by the service providers. So you actually go to the data centers of Microsoft, Google, or Amazon rather than using your own data center. So it is actually required for hosting your application. Okay, what is the difference between public and cloud, private cloud? Okay, I can say in this way: public cloud when it is managed by service provider, okay, and private cloud when enterprises, rather than going to Microsoft and Google and others, they want to set up their own cloud. Okay, so they actually get their own system management, SCCM, and Windows Server, everything. So they have their own private cloud, and most of the time it is actually used by enterprises for security reasons, because they really do not have that investment issue kind of a thing, like they cannot invest in setting up the infrastructure. So they set up their own cloud in their own premises. So that is called a private cloud. Private SaaS cloud, I think this is not actually a concept somebody has written. SaaS is something, software as service. Okay, so you can, there is no such difference in private and public in that case. Okay, SaaS in private and SaaS in public. We call it public and private only if it is on-premises cloud of an organization which is controlling the entire cloud. We call it as private. If it is a public cloud, that means there are multiple users who are sharing their resources. That is why it is public, which is managed by a service provider. Now SaaS can be on private as well as can be on public. So there is no such difference like what is a private SaaS here. Okay, you are actually creating a software as services for your consumers only, right? Application price model and licensing. Licensing, there is no such thing. Okay, when you purchase the subscription, you can get the entire information there from the portal itself. If you need any kind of help, okay, you can send your query to me. What are the prerequisite for an application to be port? Okay, this thing I already showed you. Okay, what are the requirements? You need to have Windows Azure SDK. You need to have you need to have subscription. These are the two things required mainly. Any framework, any specific framework means you just need to have the SDK of that particular technology. Let's say if you want to go with PHP, you need to have SDK for PHP. If you want Java, then you need to have SDK for Java. .NET SDK for .NET. There is one question like, why can't we access Microsoft SDK and applications at cloud instead of no? See, usually the concept is you need to write the application, right? When we talk about PaaS, or even if you want to go with IaaS, you need to write your application somewhere. When you write your application, okay, as a developer, you need tools. So you have Eclipse, you have Visual Studio. So if you can, your question is why can't I have these tools on cloud? It will definitely affect the performance. So it is always better if you have those tools on your local system. It will always easy for you to access them. You can develop your application. The only purpose, you should understand why you need to take your application in cloud. The only purpose is scalability, high availability, and deployment thing. For writing, you can have your tools anywhere, right, in your local system. Because if you try to write application in cloud, definitely it will not give you that kind of a speed. And when you try to do anything in cloud, just make sure it is being charged. Okay, so if you keep data on cloud, or if you keep your application in cloud, you have to pay for it. See, writing an application is not a big deal. At the end, the only thing that matters to the organization or the consumer and the provider is about cost. Okay, why are you why are you charging for this application and all? Guys, give me a minute, please. Yeah, only 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, there is another question. What would it take to deploy an existing application on Windows Azure? I completed this thing. Rest of the questions I answered. So let's go back and see whether the application is deployed or not. Uh, okay, it is deployed. You can check the instances also. Okay, you can see it is showing running. The size is small. The role is web role 1. You can use the monitor tab of your dashboard also. You can see the CPU percentage being used by it. Now only thing, like, I just want to show you like how you can access your application. So for that, just need to click on this link. Okay, so for sometimes for writing the application, you need to know the subscription name you are using as subscription ID. So this thing you can get from dashboard. Okay, just to scroll down there, select the cloud service and you get the information. Site URL is the way you can access your application, deployed application. Just click on it and you can see your application running, and just provide the number. Okay, click on square. Okay, so it is working fine. The application is mywinazure.test.app.cloudapp.test, sorry, .net. If you copy this, and I'm running it on this system only, so you can also run it on a different system. So it is working perfectly fine. So with this, I'm going to conclude this session, guys. Thank you very much for coming. If you have questions, you can post your queries on my blog, on my site or portal. Okay, and thank you very much. And the time has extended, I know, but because I wanted to show you the demo also, so it extended. And thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye bye.
Well, thanks for the insightful presentation, Sabha. I'm really thankful to you for conducting this webinar. It was indeed a
Okay,
great session.
thanks.
I would also like to
Uh,
thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the session would be available on techgeek.com by tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a great evening.